Doodlebud here. We're going to have a ton of fun today. We're going to use this book here called Building Scientific Apparatus so you can build your own scientific apparati. You only need two things: computer screen, a pair of sunglasses, and with that and that alone, I'm hoping, I haven't done this yet, but I'm hoping we could finally find out what's causing this cracking that seems to happen on these TWSBI Eco pens, these Eco pens. I haven't had it happen to any of mine. This thing has worked absolutely perfect. No issue with any of mine. But for some people, they claim it happens like every other pen. So there's a way that with some little tips here from the book, a little bit of science and two pieces of equipment, we can actually see what the strains look like in this. So we can maybe spot a crack. And ideally, I got a donor cheap pen. I'm gonna try to make this break on camera and see if we can watch the strains happen. But this is gonna do it this time. Come on. So strap in, get your laptop if you have one ready, and a pair of sunglasses. They have to be polarized. And if you don't have a laptop, even your phone screen will do it. You're gonna follow along. We're gonna build it, gonna walk you through it, and we're gonna see if we can finally answer this question. So for anyone out there who's interested in like science and engineering and building and making stuff, this is the book. If I could only have one piece of information with me and I had to go and be a recluse in the shed in the woods and build some cool stuff, it's this book. John Moore is the same one who built the Moore machine. This is the updated version for kind of modern day gear. This is a super special version because over here, this is signed by a living legend, none other than Dan Gelbart. I'll do a little flash on the screen there, links in the description. If you are into engineering and science, you're going to want to watch his channel. It's phenomenal. So flipping along, and I got an idea. It's on page 89 and 90 when they're talking about, glass bending and annealing. And I had a little aha moment. My wife cracked her tooth and she had to go in to get a scan done so they can see if there's a crack. And so that's when I had my aha moment. I can't believe I didn't think of this before. I just kind of totally forgot about this. But what we can do is we can take advantage of something by building a polariscope. There's an effect that we're going to measure with the polariscope called polar elasticity. So what the hell does that mean? What you do is you shoot polarized light through something, because what happens is when you injection mold these pens, any part that you make, a steel beam or this little fountain pen, there's stresses and strains. But what you can do, if it's transparent like this, you can shoot polarized light through it. That light's going to continue on to another polarized filter, hence the sunglasses. These are polarized, and you orient them the right way. But what's going to happen is the light's going to come through. It's going to hit this pen body, and the stresses and strains that are within there, you can't see them with your own eyes, but we're going to take advantage of a little science. The light is going to hit it, and those stresses and strains are going to twist the plane of polarized light, and it's going to show up in the camera in a nice visual effect and in color, all these cool colors, and we're going to be able to see any stresses or strains that are within the pen body. And you can do this too. So this is going to be really cool. I'm excited to see what happens. We're going to check these pens out, and then ultimately I want to see what it looks like if we make one break. I'm not going to break a proper TWSBI one. I have this little $2-3 knockoff one, so this will be the sacrificial lamb. But stick around. If you want to play at home, if you got an iPad, laptop, that's all you need, or a phone, and a pair of polarized sunglasses, strap in, let's have fun. So what I got going on here, I opened up paint, old school paint. So I just need the canvas to be all white. Okay, I'm going to set this up proper in a moment, but I thought let's just show you real quick. You're going to take your sunglasses, you put it over top of your camera. Okay, so these are tinted as well, so it's not the optimal thing, but I don't have the super duper gear here. You can get proper filter, like a filter film, but this will be good enough. And right away, let's see if we can get a little focus. Will be tricky. You put the pen in front, and all of a sudden now you see those colors on there. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful, right at the top. So now we're able to see some of the internal stresses inside of the pen through the injection molding. I'm losing focus, so give me a minute. I'm going to set up better, and we'll get back at it. I'm all set up now. I actually took the lens out of the sunglasses and taped it in front of the camera. You can see here just the line from the injection molding, the two halves going together. Things are looking pretty good. I don't see any huge stress points, nothing glaring, but I see a little bit going on. Let's get in closer and point out a few things I noticed. So it's more right up at the end here. I asked people a little bit just in comments, and also looked on a lot of discussion boards where stress points seem to come from, where their cracking happens when it does. And you can see a couple points here. Now it's tricky because it's round, so you don't want to double count, but the stress points you'll see on the front when I rotate it goes to the back. But we have a couple little concentrations there. Those little fringe lines get close together, but the rest of it looks all in all pretty good. Looking at the rest of the body now, it's very clean. You see a few little fringe lines there, some concentration of stress points. That's just from the overall various contours that you do within the injection molding. So that's sort of a natural process. But let's look at my other TWSBI, and it's the same thing. On the very end here, where the nib and feet go in, we have a couple little concentration points. Now, I don't know, is that extreme or is that normal for a pen like this? It's, this is outside of my scope of expertise, but I can see a potential there. And here is one spot here. We can see it's this very intense concentration of colors in that one spot, that green and that blue. But let's look at a VAC 700. And this is actually quite beautiful. So because you have the VAC filler and you have those contours in there, you will just have internal stresses, but those fringe lines, they're long, they're not overly concentrated. I don't see anything really glaring where you see a high internal stress region. You also get sort of a mirror effect because we're shooting through the pens, so it could potentially make it look twice as bad. But I don't see anything that really, again, in my eyes, which are not overly trained in this type of analysis, I don't see anything that really sticks out for this VAC 700. Now, if we go up to the section here, I'm trying to look down into it, but it's tough to see because we have a collar. Let me take the nib out here. When I take that out, I can't really see what's going on in there because there is a collar that takes the nib and feed and it slides into there. I don't see anything. You'd think a break point might be at the end there where the threads are. Again, the light's blocking it, so it's not going to let me see the internal stresses in there. You do get a little coloration on the sides, but again, it's tricky. We could be getting a bit of a lensing effect. So, we can't see those stress lines. We can see them on the Eco on the very end of there, but we can't see them on the VAC 700. But that makes me think that could be part of the issue right there. Is this is sleeved. So this has ABS plastic in it, which is more give to it. So this isn't. This is just a raw pressure fit with the nib and feed. So when you go to fit the nib and feed in, maybe the feed is just outside of the average one, or maybe the internal diameter inside the molding was just off a bit and it's just a little too narrow. The feeds, it's a touch wide, maybe the nib, and it's just a tighter fit than normal. If you have those little concentration points, those increased stresses internally, maybe over time, if you change it quite often and you change your inks all the time, it's a clear demonstrator. You want to keep the pen clean. It's sort of just natural that you'd want to with a pen like this. That could potentially make the stresses a little bit higher. But that's just me, I'm guessing. I'm not an expert in this field, but I could see a potential for that. This pen is night and day, though. This is a TWSBI knockoff. I got this pen a while ago. I had this little brush insert, used it once, didn't think much of it. So I thought, let's play around with this one. But this has been used once ever, and just look at the map on this one. The internal stresses are huge. So this is going to be our sacrificial lamb, but the stark contrast to what you see inside of a TWSBI versus this knockoff pen. So let's have some fun with this. I'm going to get my handy screwdriver, and we're going to have a little bit of fun and see if we can break this thing. Now, it has a warning, it says not to be used as a pry bar, chisel, or punch, but I'm going to pry it. So I'm jamming it in there. The opening doesn't take the end of the screwdriver all the way in, so I'm pushing it in like you would with a nib and feed where maybe the fit's too tight. And what I want to do is see if there is a difference. And you can see the little light show going on there as there's more pressure in the background. You see those fringe lines get more and more. Now, I do block the light from the screwdriver, so it's tough to see it happen. But looking afterwards, yeah, that changed it quite a bit. And you can see up top, that's a concentration point. So that's where all the stresses are gathering. And that's what it's going to look like where, you have a crack or a higher potential for a crack. So that's what I was looking for on the TWSBI. I just didn't see that. Now it's time to go for broke. So I'm going to put some serious torque on the end of this section here. You can see those fringe lines just increase. Look at the concentration of those stress lines increases. I'm just putting pressure on this now. I'm really going to give it. I'm expecting this to break, but honestly, it just wouldn't break. Like, look at the deflection on that. I thought something was going to be snapping. It's cool to watch it because you get to see the stresses increase real time. And I thought something was going to snap there at the end of the section. Didn't happen, but look at that. We got a tie-dye show going on now with there. You could see where there's almost no stress lines anymore because we've gone and totally deformed it as well. But this thing can take some serious torque to it. So let's see what it takes to break it. So I'm going to jam that back in there and just, I have my computer screen here, so I don't want to break it. Man, this thing can just go. I'm so surprised what this is willing to take without snapping. I want it to break, but it's not breaking. And now you can see the end of the Phillips is like jamming into the plastic. So this was maximum force. I was bending so hard. I was waiting for stuff to shatter and fly and hit me in the eyes or puncture my screen on my laptop. It just won't break. It's actually now permanently bent. But yeah, so I don't know if that's the test we really should have done, but I had to do it anyways. Returning to the TWSBI though, the body is really good. You can see the difference. You see a little concentration there. That I think is just from the sort of the nipple feature that receives the feed, and you're getting it from the other side, and it's down in there. You're probably getting a little bit of a lensing effect to see that low concentration, but it seems consistent at the end of the pen, right at the end of the section. But to give you an example of high concentration, this is a Starbucks cup. So you can see those dimples there at the bottom of the cup. You can see what that map looks like. I don't see anything extreme like that on the TWSBI. This is sort of extreme. So if I saw this, I saw that in the other pen, but not with the TWSBI Eco. But both pens do have those little increased concentration of internal stresses. And just from, looking at the forums, I see it happen in those areas. It doesn't seem to happen on the VAC 700 because it has that collar, that housing that receives the nib and feed. And that's just a softer material, so that could stand up to it versus this is going into the body. And if you just get the right set of wrong circumstances, I guess maybe if the mold is just a touch off, that batch is off a touch, and maybe the internal stresses are a touch high, the cooling was off. If you're a high cleaner, so you're taking the nib and feed out all the time, this is a clear demonstrator. So I understand the want, the desire to keep the pen clean, and you're doing this all the time. Yeah, I could see a higher likelihood in this one. I haven't had any challenges with mine whatsoever, but whenever I look at on any like fountain pen forums, Reddits, comments, it seems to be happening at that point. And so it might be just a little bit of a luck of the draw. I think it's a low percentage because otherwise they couldn't last long with these pens. That's as far as I'm going to go today on this testing. But we could see a significant difference. We could see little spots there. We looked at this terrible pen, and you could see what a terrible injection molding looks like in those increase of internal stresses, and especially when we induce them, we now know what those look like. So that was a lot of fun to do. Really interesting to see what it looks like, and those bodies are pretty darn good. It was just in a little small area that I saw an increase of internal stresses. So I don't see this happening all the time. I know Brian Goulet talked about this question once, and he said this almost never happens. You get them every now and then, but if it happened at the frequency that you sort of hear in comments or forums, it's like, how could this pen even exist? How could they sell so many of these? But going through and seeing what we saw now, I do see increase in those internal stresses in the point that it seems to happen when I see it in the pictures. So this kind of confirms it a little bit that it's a possibility. What I'd like to do is actually get some information from you guys. I showed you how to do this now. You can check out your pens. Shoot me an email. Do this setup yourself. Grab your pens and do the setup. Take some pictures of ones that are high usage or ones that have cracks. If you can email me, I would love to see what's going on at the doodlebud@gmail.com. Send me some pictures if you do it. And I'd love to compare and maybe get enough maybe material together to do a follow-up video to talk about this topic. Maybe you're a hard writer and you put a lot of pressure on your pen, and that adds to it. So I think it's maybe a compounding effect. High usage, mold being off a touch, a feed too big, maybe you clean it a ton, it's a clear pen, and it could just add up over time, and it could happen. I mean, that could happen to any pen that's injection molded. It's not just unique to this, but this is a mega popular pen. They sell a lot of these. And so, I had to investigate this a little bit for myself anyways to see what the story was. This is a technique. You can do it. It's non-destructive unless you jam a screwdriver in it. But I had a lot of fun learning about this and investigating this. I hope you did too. And I'd love to hear from you if you can. I showed you how to set it up. So let's investigate this a little bit together. But my pens are fine. I haven't had any issues. They work great. I know a ton of people do. Some just collect every color. So when you sell that much of something, even a 1% failure rate can turn into a large number. So I would just say keep that in mind. As always, thanks for watching, everybody. This was lots of fun. I had to investigate this even if it was just for myself when I never did this channel. I do this anyway. So anyways, thanks for watching as always. Hit subscribe if you haven't. Catch you next time.